You are watching Co-op for Two, broadcasting live from Champaign, Illinois, Sunday, March 31st, 2024, Easter, around 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. You're joining me for the 13th live Q&A channel update. This marks about the 3rd anniversary of the channel. I'll talk about that in a second. But I'm happy to talk about whatever anyone wants to talk about today. I do have some planned slides to go through here. And, oh, I see, you don't see that. YouTube says 15 concurrent viewers, 8 likes. I have a bunch of things to talk about. I want to give you an update on, well, where's our outline here? So I'll do my little disclosures first. Then we'll go over channel statistics. You'll remember my approach to this is it should be like a legal requirement that all YouTube channels go over their statistics. They don't mean much, but then we'll talk about the videos that have been done since the last update. I try to do these every 3 months or so. Then I'm going to spend a good chunk of time talking about High and Low, the mystery game that I've been working on with a bunch of people in the channel helping me, and the recent local game design contest that was held. Then I'm going to talk about reopening the Patreon, which I'm happy to talk about. We'll do our standard recommendation of some YouTube channels. Maybe we'll go through, I'll recommend a couple of books. And then I'll, at the end, sit around, and if you have more questions, I'm happy to take them. But during the live stream, feel free to post any questions in the chat, and I'll get to them periodically. If there's anyone here who saw me at Kudo Play's competition ceremony yesterday, please say hi in the chat. It would be fun if at least one person came by. Let's check in with the chat. Anyone up to any interesting projects since we last talked? I know Jonathan Warner is planning to start a new book, mystery novel to discuss. Jonathan Warner has a Discord where they read a book in week chunks, certain amount you're supposed to read each week, and then they talk about theories of the case. What's the new book you're working on starting April 1st, starting tomorrow, Jonathan? One of the problems with YouTube is that the buffering delays are so high that it's hard to have true back and forth question and answer on the chat. That's why I ask that all of you just feel free to spam the projects you're working on right from the start. There's no harm in telling people about what creative projects you're working on. John says the Decagon House Murders. It's a Japanese. I was thinking when you posted that, oh, this might be a fun book to get my wife to read along with us since she's Japanese. But then the description was like gruesome murders, and that's not quite her thing, so I don't know. We do have a couple of Japanese mystery games that she brought back from Japan that we're going to try to find a way to play that are all in Japanese, and she'll be doing the translating and I'll be doing the solving. Matt C. says that he started playing Cozy Killer Inheritance of Murder. That's the one, Inheritance of Murder. We played one on the channel, Hidden Listener. That's going to be listed coming up soon. But Inheritance of Murder seems to be the one that's gotten the most traction from Cozy Killer. So, and most people have posted they like it. So I'm curious to hear what you think of it. The author of the Cozy Killer games, Joanne Smedley, has just started a new Kickstarter. She did one a couple months ago for a new big game called Site Q. And but she's just finished a Kickstarter for a book she's making on how to make mystery games. And I did back that. Teresa said, I played Murder of a Movie Theater. That's not quite the right name, but it's a Cryptic Killers game that Teresa likes. Okay, well, I hope that went well. All right, let's get into the chat. As a reminder here, I think this session will probably go an hour and a half. And then at 3 p.m., we'll do our normally scheduled play-by-mail game. I do have the latest letter. This will be the solution from Holmes. If you've been watching our play-by-mail games, there's lots of talk in the Discord about what really happened and questions we'd like to get answers to. Ruby says, I've been watching the channel since Witchery Spell, but this is my first time here live. I have a high and low plot file under construction. Okay, that's great. Well, we're going to talk about writing cases for high and low. That's the books I have to recommend, some good writing books. We'll come back to that. Okay, let's go through our little outline here. Okay, first question is, I've put the thumbnail of the 3rd anniversary. I did that, and then when I went to copy the slide outline, I noticed that in my last update in December, I said kind of 3rd anniversary in that. So really, it's kind of fuzzy. We've got 2 updates that are set in the 3rd anniversary. My normal disclaimer here that I have no relationship with any publishers or companies, no sponsors. All of the games that are purchased on the channel are purchased by myself. And I love that. I love that we don't have any, we're trying to avoid bias as much as possible. Okay, and I already said that we're going to play Dear Holmes at 3 p.m. Okay, so let's just look back for a second at 3 years. So 225 hours of recorded videos. Those are mostly reviews. Over 265 episodes. Again, mostly reviews, though, shorter than an hour each. And then almost 1,500 hours of live streaming, over 345 episodes. So average live stream on this channel is like 4 hours long. That's a lot of hours. And then if we look at some stats here, we can see the top numbers are for the last 90 days. In other words, from between the last update and this update, looks like watch time up a little bit, subscribers down by 25%, views about the same. And then if you look at the course of the channel for the last 3 years, I don't know how to really make sense of this, but views have gone up a tiny bit, a little spike every once in a while, and then back down. But about 1,000 views every 2 days. We're pretty steady here. And then some stats that are occasionally interesting. So you can look at the age and gender breakdown. It's a little hard to see on that screen here. Can we full screen it? Yes, okay, so 27% female, 73% male. I don't know how that compares to most board game mystery content. 56% of viewers are subscribed, 43% aren't. Age looks like peaks around 25 to 45. I think the interesting thing is the sort of live versus video watchers. If you look at that bottom center chart right there, that's the most interesting one actually, because it's like 30% of people are watching only the live streams. 30% of the people are watching only the recorded videos. And then 40% are watching both. That's kind of interesting to me that they're separated, but it makes some sense. The live streams are not for everyone. I find them useful for getting to sleep or for just seeing how a game plays, but you can't really do that with the mystery games. So there you go. And then still mostly from the United States, 12% from the UK. And then where's our little outlier here? Canada, that makes sense. But then comes Germany and Sweden. I would think with my 11 p.m. streams, I might be excluding the US more, but okay, there you have it. There's our perfunctory stats. Okay, now let's talk about recorded videos in the last 3 months. I recorded a review of Medical Mysteries, which I loved. I highly recommend. I think that's going to be a game that's going to appeal to non-traditional murder mystery people. A great gift for a family member, especially a young family member. We reviewed the Vandermis dossier and the Medusa report, two highly regarded sort of deluxe escape room puzzle games, which I didn't really love. We loved Mortal Medieval Detective The Shelter, a little standalone small box expansion, $15. I highly recommend you get that. Seems to have just flown under the radar, maybe because the base game, Mortal Medieval Detective, didn't get much attention. This is the game to buy. I think you can get it for like 15 bucks. It's a steal. I finally posted a review of Mythos Tales, 8 or 9 cases in the box that we played spread out over a year or so. I really like it, and I miss that Supernatural. I was talking to someone yesterday at the game design ceremony who had played Mythos Tales and was in the same position of me, loving the Supernatural. Maybe we can get someone to do Supernatural cases for high and low. We played Suspects Box 3 and quite liked it. Easily the best box of the set from my standpoint, and that's where I would suggest you start. I put up a video reviewing all 8 Cryptic Killers games that are out, and we've got some exciting news. There's a new Cryptic Killers game that was just released. I forget the name of it. Someone will remind me on the channel. And I did order it from England, since they release for some reason in England first and then a couple weeks later in the US. That'll be here this week, and we'll be playing that live this week. The really exciting thing is that it's rated as the hardest case in all of the Cryptic Killers. It's the only case that's rated as 5 stars out of 5, 5 out of 5 difficulty. Market Hill, says Teresa, that's right. So I'm going to need some help from the channel working on that one, but that's kind of exciting. I did a review of The Curious Elevator of Mr. Hinks. That's one of these games that I would highly recommend. If you like puzzle games, like that's one that has some real charm in it. And then I posted a review of The Hidden Listener from Cozy Killer, a pretty critical review. And then a review of Penny Dreadfuls, a very long review, talking about why that game felt why it missed, what all that went wrong that I thought with that game. And then quickly through the live streams, 174 hours of live streams since the last update. 42 hours it took us to play through The Hidden Listener. That was a big one. We played Magic Mirror Casino. We played all 3 episodes through Suspects. We played a Mythos Tale fan case, the 2 dossier games. We played 2 games from High and Low that were written by members of the channel, Rocky and Dispaminite. That was quite a special thing to do. And I recorded 3 separate game design diaries talking about High and Low and the development of High and Low, and I'll do a little bit more today, and I'll continue those going forward in the future. I spent a couple hours looking through Citadel, lamenting that I'd probably never play it, but Jonathan Warner has convinced me maybe we'll play through the tutorial, the short scenario, just to get a feel for it. I want to test this new top-down camera, so probably I tend to not like playing those kind of cooperative games solo, but it'll be with the channel. We'll give it a try. We'll see how it goes. And then I talked about The Shelter. We played that live. And then we played 5 episodes of Medical Mysteries on the channel. Seems like with the different games, you get slightly different people join me for some of them and skip out on others. And this was a slightly different group. We had a great time playing it. Again, couldn't recommend that more highly. And we played 2 full cases of Dear Holmes. We're just wrapping up the Found Key today. And then 2 small games, small box games, the Side Quest series, Side Quest 7C and Side Quest Nemesis. One I really liked, one I did not like so much. I'll be posting a review of that soon. Okay, now let's take a little break, check in with the chat. Anything new in the comments to talk about? Not really. What's the channel's most watched video of all time? That's a great question. There are 2 that are about tied now. For a very long time, the the video with the most views was the Q&A, with the video that Greg organized, constructed, talking about answering all questions about Lord of the Rings, the card game. It was how to get started with Lord of the Rings, the card game in 2021. That still continues to get hits. That's like, 20,000 views, 25,000 views. And then right behind it now, that was a little bit problematic because people who come to the channel for that content are very disappointed because there's no other Lord of the Rings content on the channel. But then now just about tied with that is one of my roundups of murder mystery games. One of my like 5 different murder mystery games. All of the top 10 videos in general tend to get viewers, but I've been avoiding that kind of stuff. Okay, Matt says that's the first one I saw. Steve W says, I just started Gumshoe. It looks daunting. Gumshoe, which is behind me on the wall somewhere. Yes, it is. It's that blue box right there. Gumshoe is the closest inspiration for High and Low. It's a big, giant 10-case game. It is daunting. And not only that, you have to play through it multiple times. I recorded playthroughs of the first couple days on this channel. And I recorded an advice video for Gumshoe. Advice on getting the most out of it and playing it. I suggest you watch that video. And there are a couple of tips that I remember that you might want to really consider. First of all, it's a serious game that requires note-taking. So create yourself a Google Doc Notes and start taking notes seriously. The other thing that really helps with Gumshoe is to make scans, make copies of the list of locations for each day so that you can annotate them as you play and cross them off when you play them. And then there's some other decisions you're going to have to make about replaying days, and I talk about my suggestions for that, so you may want to check that out. Rob says, where's my, I wrote all these tools to help me show these questions on the screen, so why aren't I using these? Rob says, what was the least watched video? Well, I have a section on the homepage of the channel, on the YouTube page of the channel, that says like my favorite forgotten videos. Those are videos that really I think deserve more viewers. But in general, if you start a YouTube channel, what you'll find is that in the early days, the videos, people just want to watch new videos. They want to watch new videos on new games. And so what it means is if you start a channel, the first 100 videos you put out, I mean, unless you catch on for some reason, catch fire early, the early videos never get watched. Once they're a week old, no one wants them. So all of the older videos tend to have very few views. I did a whole 10-part class on setting up a small YouTube studio for filming board games that no one really watches. And a lot of effort went into that. So that's sort of a shame. But yeah, if you go to the YouTube page for this channel, there's a little playlist of the forgotten videos that I sort of like, that are some of my favorites. Okay, let's continue here. Where were we? High and Low. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Okay, so those of you who don't know, High and Low is the board game. Where's my little thing? This is what I brought to the ceremony thing yesterday to have on the table. High and Low, it's behind, you can see the box behind me here. It's a board game that I started working on about a year ago. And with a huge amount of encouragement from the channel, which has helped all along, and a bunch of people, viewers of the channel who hang out at the Discord, have helped me. And I signed up for a local board game design contest that's run here in Champaign, Illinois every year called Kudo Plays. And yesterday was the final ceremony where they awarded prizes and stuff. And so I'm going to show you, just to share some of the stuff. There was the little sign at my table, you could see actually that how it worked is with the final ceremony, they had all of the game designers come to this venue, set up a table, and run play tests for 7 hours. And then at the end of the night, they awarded some prizes and stuff. So I was sitting there at that table. People would come by. I would tell them, do you have 6 hours? And then everyone would laugh. And then I'd say, okay, just play it for as long as you want to play it. And they would sit down and play the game. I would teach them how to play, and they would play it. And it was fun. There were only, maybe 3-4 groups of people who sat down and played, but they played for a while. Some played for more than an hour. One kid came, sat down, opened it up, and said, nope. But it was fun. And it was fun to talk to all the other game designers. But really, High and Low wasn't a perfect match for this contest. The adult nature of it. And, it's only tangentially a board game. But mainly the purpose of entering it was to set some deadlines. And really for that, it was perfect. And I really encourage any of you who are working on a project, if you can find a way to set some external deadline on you to keep you on track, it really does help. Okay, so I want to show you, I just want to show you for those of you who haven't been paying attention recently, there's the High and Low box with the cover art done by Logan, another one of the viewers on the channel that everyone loves, including me, well, most people love. And so there's a couple things you might not have seen here. I made a little 2-page little summary of the game. Components, highlights, some credits for some of the people here who have helped edit. Rocky, who did the case that I included with when I submitted the game, and Despaminite, who did the first ever case for the game, and Debbie Levy, who's been helping, and Logan. Debbie Levy has been doing a bunch of editing. Logan has been doing lots of art for the game, which isn't getting used yet, but will for sure soon. And then yesterday they played the wrong book, which is the case I wrote. I tried printing out some different formats for the case. So here's our 8.5 by 11. You guys haven't seen this yet, but just for fun to see what it would look like to print out the case books in a different format. So this is the case. I mean, this is full spoiler, so don't look too hard at this. But here it is formatted in a Japanese B6 format with 1 column. That actually works pretty reasonably well. And here's B5 format with 2 columns, which works pretty well. I don't know if that's any better than doing it an 8.5 by 11. I don't know if there's any real benefits to that, but just for fun. And then there's the case log for the case. Now, the case, the wrong book, some of you have played and demoed for me and given me feedback, and that was hugely helpful in fine-tuning it, and that's what people played yesterday. If you're interested in playing this case and playing with all the documents here, they're all, this is a new set of yellow pages that got made for it. There's the 8.5 by 11 version of the case. There's our white pages, 12,000 people. Nicola, another viewer of the channel and a famous designer of MAME, one of the first arcade emulators, spent a lot of time between the last version, the last iteration of the telephone book, and this one, researching last names of different ethnicities and there were a lot of problems with the ethnicities, with the last name databases that have been culled from all over. And Nicola found that the Russian last names weren't obeying the gendered naming differences. Apparently in Russia and some of the other Slavic countries, female last names, Logan reminds me in the chat that Logan didn't do the cover. That was by Adam Hall. Adam Hall is the person who did the cover. Yes, that's right. Okay, so anyway, Nicola went through and helped improve all of the databases for the last names. So now the last name ethnicities are much more realistic and accurate, and a bunch of bugs got fixed. So for those of you who haven't seen this, these are all the documents to play high and low, and you can watch the other game design live streams for more information about this. But these full set of documents are available along with the case, the wrong book, and the rules, and the new sheets for playing the game. Some changes got made, a lot of changes got made since the last game design diary, involving tracking time while you play. If you want to play this, there's a link in the Discord, but now I also added a link on this video. So if you're watching this and you're curious about playing high and low, and you're willing to play it on a computer, it would help if you have multiple monitors, but the only thing you should print out is this. Well, there's a README in the download. There's a link on this video to download these sets of PDFs and play it digitally. So anyway, that's what I sat for a couple hours yesterday walking people through, and then they held the contest, and we got here a couple of runner-up prizes. No first place. Basically, they had lots of different awards for different things. And then each award had a winner and 2 runners-up. So we, high and low, got runner-up prizes for replay value, which is a little odd since the individual cases aren't replayable. But I think what they had in mind there is that new cases could be released. And then visual communication, enrichment, and theme. So it was fun. It's fun to get these, but really that wasn't at all the point. The point was to just be involved in something that set a hard deadline and got the game out there so I could talk to people about it. And that was the fun part, and it really was quite fun. They did a great job of running it. If you're interested in game design, I encourage you to find a local group, a local event contest. If you're around Champaign, Illinois, you can join the next year's Kudo Plays, but find something to give you that extra little motivation to finish what you're working on. There's something very different between working on something and then having to polish it and get it finished good enough to play, and that really helps to have some extra motivation for that. Okay, let's check in with the chat. There's actually a really great library on this channel covering the whole genre. Okay, Perry says good morning. Okay, so let's go back to the high and low stuff. I talked about the Kudo Plays. There are now 3 playable cases. I'm going to make sure Rocky's case and Dispamonite's case are available for download as well. One of the things that I'd like some feedback on is whether the name needs to change. It's time to create a little website and a page on Board Game Geek for the game, and I am so emotionally attached to High and Low. I've talked about how it's an Akira Kurosawa film noir movie that I really love, and sort of captures all the double meaning of the city, the poor and the rich and all that, and Manhattan being low, the lower parts of Manhattan, upper parts of Manhattan being so different. But it is a name that's very ambiguous, doesn't really convey what it means. There are a bunch of games already called High and Low on Board Game Geek. And so I think logic dictates that a better name would be something like New York Noir, and maybe call the campaign of 10 cases that I'm working on High and Low. But something like High and Low, a New York Noir game, or call the system New York Noir. But I would appreciate some thoughts on this. So yeah, I'm sort of torn. Logic tells me to give it a name that's more obvious what it means. Matt says High and Low Mysteries. That might be a little bit better. At least that conveys what it is a little bit better. So what I've started working on now, which is going to take months, this is the next phase of high and low, is some tools for building and playtesting the cases online. So I spent quite a bit of time, you know that most of this is software based. Most of the time working on high and low has been writing code. And I wrote some code to build these case books, and that's what lets me format them in any different way. And it creates the links and tracks the markers and all the jumps and stuff. It makes it a lot easier to write a case. Turns out to actually be essential, and it can produce these nice table of contents. So anyway, the code for that is written in Python, and it's a little bit painful for other people to use it. It's Python and LaTeX and typesetting and lots of add-ons for LaTeX. And so my idea is to make a website where you can just upload the text of your case, or maybe even just link to a collaborative Google Doc link and let it build the different PDFs for the casebook in different formats that people can download and play, help you manage versions, and then let people play test it online and collect some stats about like where they tried to go. It would be a great tool for people who want to write cases, and it could be used for writing Sherlock Holmes consulting detective cases as well. So that's what I'm working on now. If there's any Python coders who want to join that project, I'd love to have you come talk to me. And then the other real advantage of creating this sort of online hub for submitting cases and compiling them and producing them in different formats and letting you play online is that the channel knows one of the things that's dearest to my heart are these play-by-mail games. And if that online tool gets written correctly, it would be ripe for creating versions of cases that could be played by mail. You submit a move, you wait a week, and you get a reply, either a PDF in an email or a physical letter, and opens up a lot of different possibilities for different kinds of cases we could make and stuff. So I'm very excited about that idea. We were even talking about the idea of old-time radio plays. You could make a case if we could find a group that would record each paragraph as a little snippet of audio, little 1-minute audio scenes, and then let the back end of the tool sort of assemble them. So if you submitted 3 moves on the app, and then in a week you'd get your little 20-minute radio drama of the scenes stitched together, the audio radio scenes. It would be your custom radio show that you would get every week, letting you listen to the places you chose to go in the order you chose to go them as your little custom bespoke radio drama. Very interesting. I've been reading a couple books on the golden days of radio and how they staged those. So anyway, if you're interested in recording some audio of one of these cases, it would be nice to have these cases available as radio dramas as well. Okay, a little breath. Let's talk with the catch up on the chat. Doris is here. Did I finish saying if you want to play My Case, the Wrong Book, or Rocky's case called Hit the Ground Running, there's a link in the description of this video. And in the Discord for this channel, which you'll find a link on the YouTube page, I'm always there, happy to talk, give help. I've been thinking about whether I could do a live stream where I can't really play the game, I don't think, on YouTube. I mean, obviously I know it, but I could sit there and let people make suggestions of what to do. But I could also just have a live stream where I sit here and answer questions. What was Waters' case called? Waters' case was called Past Never Dies. All of those are available in the Discord. I just have to prepare some better links for the complete set. Waters' case and Rocky's case were created with version 1 of the directory. So you definitely need different versions of the directories for my case and for those cases. My case, the directory has been improved and enlarged a little bit. Hit the Ground Running was Rocky's case. Past Never Dies was Water's case. I like them all. They're all fun in different ways. The other thing is Rocky has been doing some improvements to his case that I haven't played through yet. Some rather dramatic changes, and so I'm curious to try those. Okay, let's continue here. 35 minutes in. Okay, upcoming plans. The big upcoming plan to talk about is the Patreon. So I have reopened the Patreon page for Co-op for Two. If you don't know what Patreon is, it's a place where creatives, people who make things, can have people subscribe to their channel, pay a certain amount per month to support their work, and then you can give them benefits, whatever. We started a Patreon when the channel started 3 months ago, and a handful of people signed up for it. They were very kind, generous people. And at some point, I decided, what are we doing? It's not important. It's not critical. And then I was having to spend time posting over at Patreon. It just seemed like there was no point into it. But I'm happy to now reopen it. I feel better about what I'm asking for, what the idea is here. So basically, if you enjoy this channel, if you like what I'm doing here, if you like the content, and you want to help pay for the games that are played, I hope you'll consider going over to the Patreon and signing up. There's a $3, there's a $3 per month, $5 a month, $10 a month. There are some substantial costs for this channel. I just bought from Amazon a week or two ago a $2,000 top-down camera to do a little bit better job of capturing larger areas of the table when I zoom in. And then I do pay a monthly subscription to Adobe Premiere, which I use for editing, and Motion Array, which I use to do the different intro videos. And then the games cost thousands of dollars per year I end up spending. The Hidden Listener, which we played a month or so ago, was a $400 game. And there are certain games that, I think twice about buying until I wait for a review, or certain Kickstarters I pass on. They just seem expensive. So if you like the content here and you think it would be enjoyable for you to contribute, to feel more part of deciding what games we play and just part of the process, I hope you'll consider it. But do it only if it feels good to you. Don't do it because you feel obligated to do it, and don't do it if you don't have the spare money. This is not my full-time job. This is, there's no, if no one donates, everything continues as normal. If everyone donates, things continue as normal. So nothing's riding on this. I have talked in the past how I think the incentive system for board game YouTubers is totally messed up, corrupt, and it's terrible. And at some point, we're going to look back on these days when these board game YouTubers are sponsored by board game publishers and are getting paid to do previews and getting free games. We're going to look back on that very questionably. It is a very bad incentive structure that requires the board game YouTubers to be overwhelmingly positive, hyping up things because they can't afford to get on bad terms with publishers. It's all messed up. So I talk regularly about the idea that there is a way forward, which is supporting the creators you like via Patreon. So whether you support me or some of the other channels, keep your eye open for the channels that are supported only by the viewers. That seems like a much healthier relationship. And so I'm sort of putting my money where my mouth is in terms of embracing this. but it's not a critical part of this channel. So do it if it makes you feel good and you can afford it. And I'll be transparent about the amount of money. You can see how much is coming in every month on the Patreon. It's something like $40 a month currently. Someone was talking in the channel. Perry says, Patreon appears to only allow subscriptions. There's no one-time payment allowed. I think there is a way on Patreon to just pay once and then cancel. You could do that. Or I'm happy to take direct donations via PayPal. My email address is on the YouTube page. I'm happy to take a one-time donation via PayPal. If you don't want to sign up for a subscription, I completely understand it. Or if you just want to talk to me in the Discord or in chat, I'm available every day. If you say, hey, I've got a game that I purchased or I kickstarted, maybe I'll send that to you after I play it. Like, I'm happy to do that. I've got a couple games here that were sent to me. They're not behind me here. But that's fine too. Whatever you want to do is fine. Okay, and then can we open the Patreon page just to show it to you? Let's see here. Does that show up here? Okay, well, that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. And there's my little pitch for joining the Patreon. Total members 6, paid members 5, $32 per month is coming in. Okay, so that's what it is, and you can... I don't know why it says join for free. Oh, okay, forget it. It's a pain in the ass. But there you go. That's how it works. And then there's some page where you can choose whether you want... It would be kind of nice if you could see the 3 levels. Okay, so here we go. Here's what I set up. I set up 3 levels: bronze, silver, gold. And here's what you get if you join the Patreon. I am going to put up little credits at the end of videos about people who are helping support the channel. I say here early access to episodes, but that's more of a punishment than a reward, I think. Basically, when I upload the videos, the reviews, not the live streams, I typically put them up there, let them render for a day or 2 or more before I publish them. And I think probably what I'll do is I'll just let people who are Patreon supporters, if they want, have early access to those videos. The only reason I say punish it is because you'd kind of be helping me if you watch them early and notice if I make any mistakes. And then maybe have a little extra weight for the Patreons occasionally voting on what games to play next. For example, if all the Patreon people wanted to play a certain game, maybe I'd try to make space for that. And then silver just says you can also help choose what games I buy. And then the gold is everything there. Help vote on what games to play next, what games I buy, and then help choose live stream schedule. And the only thing, most of the time, like most of the decisions about this channel are going to be based on what I want to do and what my schedule looks like. But if all the Patreon supporters are like, can you please stream a game on Saturday mornings? Well, then we'll try to fit that in occasionally. But there's no content that's going to be restricted to Patreon supporters, and no one needs to feel bad about not supporting the Patreon, whether it's because you don't have spare cash lying around, or it's just not something that you want to do. Don't feel any guilt, and that's the deal I want to make. Okay, so I've talked about the benefits. My primary thing is that this Patreon stuff shouldn't have any interference on the enjoyment of the channel. Really, really, the most wonderful thing about this channel over the last 3 years, the real surprise for me, has been really how enjoyable it's been to be able to play games with this group of people that join me. So I don't want to do anything to mess with that. I don't want to do anything that would make any of you who join me for these live streams, for these long live streams, and then talk to me about them. I don't want to do anything that would mess with any of that. The Patreon is just a little side thing. If it starts to interfere with the fun of that, if the people who have been joining me for the live streams resent it, then it's done more harm than good. So really, this channel has been a joy for me, and I love playing the games with the people I've met through the channel. So my hope is that this is not something that affects any of you in any negative way. And then I've said all this before, but there are better ways than money that you could support this channel. Just the encouragement, all of the development on this high and low game has been hugely helped by the encouragement I've gotten for the channel. The people that talk in the Discord, I enjoy chatting with them, hearing about your projects. I love spending time talking about these games with the people in the channel, and when you post your comments about how you might disagree with me or agree with me or extra little things I may have missed, that's more important than donating. So that's the most important thing. But some of you may have the money and may feel like, well, there's a bunch of games each year that I would have bought. So I'm saving some money. Let me donate this to the channel and feel like I'm part of the process of buying the games. I'd love to have it. And here's the final wrap up. This is the deal I'm making with the channel here, which is I'm not going to feel bad about asking for support. I'll mention it the same way I mentioned that we're not sponsored by any publishers. You'll get used to hearing that. And I'm not going to feel bad about that. And you don't have to feel bad about not joining Patreon and sending money. So that's the deal I'm going to make with you. We can all be happy. No shame, no guilt. And we'll continue doing what we're doing. Okay. Any questions before we go into that? Any comments, questions, complaints from the audience about that? Concerns? Perry says, Patreon appears to only allow subscriptions. There's no one-time payment allowed. As I said before, you can send a one-time payment via PayPal. You can send me cash in an envelope, however you want to do it. You could send an Amazon gift card. You could buy a game and send it to me after you're done playing it. Matt says, it all seems reasonable. Teresa says, I'm good. Okay. Like I said, no one has to feel guilty about not doing it. And nothing bad will happen if no one does it. Okay. Where are we? Upcoming plans. Okay. Basically, just business as usual here on the channel. I don't have any major plans to do anything differently. But a little list of things that are coming up. I talked about the new Cryptic Killers game, which should arrive on Thursday. So probably this coming week we'll play that. That might be a group effort if it really is difficulty 5. The Cryptic Killer games have gotten better and better. I do want to put up a review of the small side quest games we've played, Nemesis and 7th Sea, and there are a couple other small box games that I thought I should play through for some context, and one of the ones that's been recommended to me is Detective, so we'll probably play that very soon. And then we've got Razorhurst Blood Alley. One of the highlights of previous years has been playing through John Keene's Razorhurst, a print and play game, which I highly recommend if that's the kind of thing that you're interested in, true crime game. I'm hoping we can get John Keene to work on a high and low case at some point. But the only reason we're waiting off on Blood Alley, which is the follow-up, even bigger, is that John Keene asked us to wait a little bit so he has time to get some feedback from the really early rough beta testers. But I think we'll be playing that soon. I talked about a 7 Citadel playthrough. There are a bunch of playthroughs already on YouTube that you can watch if you're interested. But if you're interested in actually joining for one, we'll be doing that at some point. Anna requested that we play some of one of the classic dossiers. We have one serious one from the 30s that we're saving for a special event, but we do have a set of these 1980s Sherlock Holmes dossiers that are kind of interesting. And they're based on these cases. So if you've read one of these books, you're going to know the answers. But just to give you some idea of how these work, they're very similar to the old 1930s dossiers by Dennis Wheatley. And they're filled with facsimile documents. So newspaper clippings, items, envelopes, sometimes some physical items, letters, fold out stuff. So we've got 3 of these. When were these published? I think they're from the 80s. So I think we'll be playing one of these this week or soon after. And maybe Anna will decide which one of these. Anna is one of our viewers who's frequently winning our MVP, most valuable detective. What else did I write down here? Some more fan cases for Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective for sure. I'll continue with the high and low design diaries, more Deadbolt Mystery Society boxes, which have been piling up. I have a couple other subscription boxes that we haven't tried yet that I'm curious to try. And there's also another case that I'm getting the itch to play, which is, we played a case called The Duel. I think it was by Be the Detective. And we really liked it. A longer case. And they made a follow-up game called Adventure Park. I'm really starting to get an itch to play through that. So I think I'd like to get that played soon. And then if the channel has other things they'd like to play, you'll let me know and we'll schedule it. Okay. I normally try to make a couple recommendations. I try to find channels that don't have as many views as this, don't have many subscribers as this channel. And believe me, that is not easy. We've got almost 3,000 subscribers now. But I did want to recommend 2. The first one was suggested by Jonathan Warner, and it's a channel that talks about mystery books mostly, but he's got some crossover. Here's some interview with this guy Quinns, who's from No Pun Included, very popular board game channel. And then the other one I wanted to plug is this Escape the Rumors. And this is a website. I think it's mostly a husband and wife couple. The website reviews lots of escape room games. And it's Shut Up and Sit Down is the channel, not No Pun Included. Those are both 2 sort of British YouTube channels that are very popular, that started in the old days and have just grown their audience to where there are people watching who aren't typical board gamers. Anyway, so Escape the Rumors, their website is full of reviews of escape room games, both that you can purchase, play online, and physical escape rooms. And they have a channel here. There are a couple channels that interview these designers of escape rooms, but they do it quite well. And so they've got a bunch of interviews, in addition to the website of reviews, which is very useful, interviews with designers of some of these escape room games. And I noticed very recently that they had a long interview with the designers of the Escape Tales series. The Escape Tales series are the people that made, I think they're the Polish designers, but they made Children of Wormwood's very long form puzzle narrative game that we loved and played through on the channel. But they're also the designers of these 2 side quest small box games that we just played. So if you're interested in this design area, you might want to check out their channel, and especially that Escape Tales interview. They talk about how they wanted to do something different, and and their thoughts on the pressure of time and how to get around that. Some interesting stuff. So I recommend you check out those. And then, is there anything else? Or are we here at the end here of my things?
Meet Special Agent No.
I don't want that. Okay, Q&A. All right, so we're basically at the end. I did want to recommend 2 books. If anyone is interested in writing a case for high and low, I'd love to have you work on one. The documents, the directories are all there available, and I've written some documents on how I think what's a good strategy for writing a case. I have learned some, having written my first case, and it was tricky, hard, weird feeling, but I do feel like I have a couple of insights into how to write case now for high and low in particular. But I did want to recommend these 2 books that I really liked. And you know, when you're an expert in the field, you start reading the secondary material, the more subtle material. But this is not subtle material. This is sort of like the cliff notes for writing mysteries. And James Frey wrote a whole bunch of books that are in the same form. It's like how to write a damn good novel. He has one called The Key or something. And these are just very, almost like, I mean, it's a full book talking about it, but some very concrete. Maybe that's the best way to talk about these ideas and theories here. They're very concrete, actionable pieces of advice. And the 2 of them, and then here's Will Storr. This is, I think this is probably the one I would recommend even more, but both of these are good. And they both sort of come from a scientific standpoint about what makes compelling mystery. And both of them have some theories about the protagonist that are really fascinating. They're very similar. And they deal with writing a sort of flawed protagonist. That there should be flaws, and James Frey makes a pretty convincing case that you can make your protagonist unlikable as long as he's got special skills. So things that make the player resonate with the thing. And then Will Storr has an even more interesting little gimmick about the protagonist, and he talks about a sacred flaw. And it's a really interesting theory. I've talked a little bit about it before on this channel. This idea that if you look for what people find sacred, then you're at the core of where they start behaving irrationally because they find this sacred. And this idea that character arcs get to this point where they've got a flawed model of the world, and that's what the story is basically about, where that flawed model of the world gets challenged and gets to a breaking point, and they either adjust their model or can't adjust and fail, and that's what gets you tragedy or a happy solution. But anyway, if you're interested in writing mysteries or the theory of writing mysteries, here are 2 books that I would recommend, and I have some ideas of my own about how to structure a high and low case and break it up into days, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone about that. In the Discord, we have a channel for case authors. The other advantage of writing a case for high and low is that if you do write it and finish it, we will play it here on the channel. All right. So we're done with my prepared comments at 58 minutes. And now if people have other questions, things they want to talk about, projects you're working on that you want to share with the channel, I'd love to hear it. I do have, everyone got a couple weeks advance notice that I was doing this, and 2 people asked questions. Where are my things here? Teresa says, was there a game you would like to change the ending to? The one that jumps out the most to me, I mean, we talk a lot about the endings of these games. There's almost a science to having a finale and ending to a game. And it is interesting, especially with the Sherlock Holmes consulting detective style cases. there is almost like a style decision about writing the ending finale of the longer cases. And one of the strategies really is to, like, there's a science to making a finale, whether it's in a movie or in a book or in a game, that makes it feel different. And one of the things you see in some of the best of them is that, like, things change at the end. If it's a legacy board game or a mystery game, you get like the mechanics change slightly to let you know, it makes it feel like you're in something special in the finale. And the one that really jumps out, though, as failing was The Hidden Listener, where we played for 43 hours and we really expected a sort of resolution, a sort of nice denouement where everything gets pulled together and makes sense, and we get little epilogues of things. And The Hidden Listener was one of the ones that really went in the other direction. It was so thin and unsatisfying that it really left a bad taste in our mouth. So I'd like to see them work on that. Okay. And then the other one that was submitted to me earlier was, what's with the 8-minute breaks? Not 5, not 10, but 8. I always wondered why. So Ninachka is talking about, on the live streams, about every hour we take an 8-minute break. And the question is, why is that 8 minutes? Well, it didn't always used to be 8 minutes. I believe it was 5 minutes or so. And Jonathan Warner messaged me one day and said, I think you should make the breaks a little longer so that people can go get something to eat. So basically, that's what that 8 minutes is. It's enough time to generously get up, go to the bathroom, and make yourself something to eat or tea or coffee without rushing. So that's what it is. It's a little bit generous. Often, we don't need a full 8 minutes. And I can see how in the land of YouTube, where most videos are, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we have a 6-hour live stream with these big, long 8-minute breaks. But a lot of things on this channel are designed to weed out people so that we just have our hardcore group. And the 8 minutes that lets you go off, change channels, do something else, hopefully fall asleep. Hopefully this channel is useful for people with insomnia. So I like the 8 minutes. I like it a lot. It gives me time to get up, stretch, refill my coffee and tea. All right, let's see. Matt says, you have a lot of games. How is the storage situation? You see a lot of videos that people make on culling their board games. They seem to be a popular thing. I live in a condo, a 1,300 square foot condo. There's not that much space for games here. And, down in my room, which you see behind me, you're maybe seeing half of the games. Well, maybe a third of the games in my room. Maybe a quarter. But basically, when I run out of space down here, the games get given away and put up in the attic and then sold at garage sale. Where the joke here among my friends, who Rebecca and Chad, they run the garage sales typically, is I make people talk to me about the board games. So they're like my last moments to talk about board games. So we put them out on a table near me. Sometimes I put a sign saying maximum you can purchase is 1, or 10% discount if you agree to talk to me about a board game. But I get rid of games. I have gradually getting rid of more and more board games, keeping the mystery games. And then after we play them, I keep them long enough to review them, and then I get rid of them. But I don't collect and keep games to keep them. I keep only the games that have some sort of emotional memory for me, but I try to get rid of them. And I don't have enough space to store them all. So I've gotten rid of more games than I have. And upstairs is a big collection of games. So they leave. They leave my house fairly quickly. And I used to do a lot of trading on Board Game Geek, but now with shipping costs, it just seems more trouble than it's worth. Instead, we just do it at the garage sale or give it to friends. My friend Rebecca here is starting a cat cafe, board game cafe here in Champaign. So I've been giving her more and more games that she can put on her shelves there. Harry says, was there a first game that inspired you to go down this path of mystery games, and what was it? I think like many of you here, my first real experience with this kind of game was Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. And I remember playing that. I played it with my wife in our early days. And, well, that wasn't the first time I played it. But it was a magical experience playing Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. It really was. It felt like traveling in time. Just a totally magical experience playing Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. So that's a very special place in my heart. And that's what started all this. But the other thing is, this channel was not supposed to be a mystery channel. This channel was supposed to be cooperative board games, hence the title of the channel. But it shifted when it became only me. So it's been, the intention was this was not the intention. But we've stumbled into the situation where I thought I would just not do the channel, but it turns out that playing these games with the people in the channel, in the chat, playing along with me, is a very special set of ingredients. And for some reason, I find it very enjoyable, very comforting. It's like a little bit of meditation. And whether it's a 6-hour game or a 2-hour game, I find it very relaxing, enjoyable, comforting. It's fun to talk about theories with those of you who join me for the live streams. It's just overall a very satisfying experience. So we've stumbled into it. We're just going to stay in this little hole that we've fallen into and stay in it as long as we can. Macon says, do I own non-mystery games too? I sure do. You can see some of the games behind me. My favorite game experience of all time is Pandemic Legacy. 1 and 2. You can see those over there, which I played with one of my dearest friends, Zachary Brown. That's one of the other, if I were to name like a handful of games that had the most influence on me, I would say Pandemic Legacy series, Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, and maybe Agricola was the other board game that one of the first board games I ever played was Agricola back decades ago. And I remember it may have been when it was #1 on BGG. And I bought it, had no experience with heavy board games, and just brought it out to play. My mother was visiting me. And I said, let's play this game that's so highly regarded. And I went through the rule book and I was like, we can't play this. I don't know. I don't understand it. It was just overwhelming. It wasn't what I was expecting. And I think at that point I had bought the couple of top-rated Board Game Geek games, and the other one I bought was the original Arkham, not the original Arkham Horror, maybe 2nd edition, which was way too fiddly. And I got rid of those, and then I ended up rebuying Agricola at some point and falling in love with it. So that's sort of my trajectory here. Matt C says, Pandemic Legacy is incredible, absolute masterpiece. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think the whole Pandemic series is like a game that should be studied, but Pandemic Legacy has some real lessons for creating a legacy game that are subtle, and that the legacy people are often, the people making legacy games now seem to have not learned from that. This idea of episodic storytelling where you've got narrative and events that happen between games, then the game plays out according to strict rules. There's lots of stuff going on. But yeah, if you haven't tried Pandemic Legacy, give it a try. Ruby says, how do you feel about the frustrations and emotional intensity of some of the game experiences? Do you wish it was all smooth sailing, or do you enjoy the emotional roller coaster? Boy, that's a deep psychological question. If you watch some of the playthroughs on this channel, you've seen me get very frustrated. I have sort of a low tolerance for low threshold for frustration. And I once had the neighbors call me when I lived somewhere else. Knock on the door to find out if I was murdering someone. And I told them, no, I'm just a computer programmer. I'm screaming at the computer alone. But I have a very low threshold for frustration when things don't work. And after the years go by, like maybe the first year of the channel, I would just tamp that down. You wouldn't see it so much. Now it comes out in the channel occasionally after 3 hours. If the temperature rises in the room to 80 degrees and I get a puzzle I can't solve, I get visibly frustrated and angry at the game. And sometimes I'm a little too quick to blame the game for some problem. And sometimes what sort of snowballs and I get angry at the game and don't give it a chance to recover. But that's where it helps to have the channel. I do not like taking hints, and that's a bigger issue that someone should make a video on. Maybe I will at some point, about when you should take a hint for a game, because part of that frustration happens after a certain amount of time when you can't solve something. There have been some notorious games on this channel that I sat here for hours trying to solve. Because I didn't want to take a hint. And, you know, probably an advice I would give to someone is, after a certain amount of time of frustration, you should read the hint rather than stay there and suffer through it. But on the other hand, my philosophy is sort of that if I'm going to complain about a game when I review it, then I should sit there and experience the full anger and frustration of not taking a hint. And then the deeper part of this question has to do with what is anger. And that the theories of expressing anger rather than keeping it bottled up. Like, there's obviously something that feels good about being angry. It's a coping mechanism. It's an outlet. It's something you're doing to feel good. Whatever's causing you to do that, it's a release valve. So there's some aspect of it that is a little bit enjoyable, even though it feels very frustrating and unpleasant. There's also something about it. How do you know when it's time to look up or take a hint? Well, that's the question. I don't have a good answer for that. Occasionally on the channel, someone will say, Jesse, just go take a hint. But I really don't like that. I don't like taking the hints, but maybe it would be smarter to do so. Any other thoughts from the chat? Anything else to talk about? Any other recommendations of YouTube channels you watch? Books to read? I've been rewatching Narcos on Netflix, which is a great series. And I think we're going to start watching Shogun soon, which I hear is very good. Logan says, what is next to Body of Evidence back there? So actually, Body of Evidence we should play. Body of Evidence was kickstarted. It was sort of aggressively pushed by the Mysterious Package Company. And they're going to have a new Kickstarter for 2 more boxes of it. I have my suspicions that it's not going to be that great. I'm not going to be something that this channel loves so much, or that I love so much. But because there's a new Kickstarter coming soon, I'm thinking we should play it. To see whether, so people can get some idea of whether the new Kickstarter should be backed. So we'll probably play Body of Evidence soon. Now, to the right of body of evidence. Oh, Wilkin was asking about what's to the left. To the left of it is Dead on the Vine, which is a hunt-to-killer standalone box game that's sort of in the middle between their longer ones and their shorter ones. I've reviewed some of their standalone boxes, which it looks like they're moving more in the market to, like selling direct to Target, these little standalones. One was Murder at the Motel. This is a sort of hybrid one. I don't normally love the hunt-to-killer games, but I am curious about trying this one and seeing how it stacks up. Then to the right of body of evidence, which you can't really see, is a game, a mystery cold case game set in Magic the Gathering world that I just stumbled across. And it looks like it uses a little bit of AR, the augmented reality, needing a cell phone, but I am curious to check it out. Matt C says, Hunt a Killer just got bought out. That's interesting. I didn't know that. Let's see. A Patreon perk could be the ability to force Jesse to take a hint. Funny. All right. Any other thoughts from the channel before we wrap this up? Matt C says, ever thought of doing a video game on the channel? It's interesting. Occasionally there's a thread. So there's a Board Game Geek guild for this channel. And on that guild, there's a thread where we plan out what games to play next. I hope you should stop by and join, check out that thread, see if there are games you want to play. But there are also a couple threads about video games that might be of interest to PC games that are mystery games. I was just reading a book called Twisty Little Passages about the history of interactive fiction and Zork and all the Infocom games and stuff. It's quite interesting. And there are some interesting mystery games that you can get on Steam. Some quite innovative ones now. It has occurred to me, but the thing is that I'm not really a solo board gamer. I'm not much of a video gamer. There are a couple series that I've played on the PC. I love Sniper Elite series. You're basically a sniper. And I tend to play Far Cry and Mafia. If you want narrative in a first-person shooter, the Mafia series is amazing. But I tend not to be a solo gamer. I mean, it might surprise you, but without the channel to interact with when I play these games, I don't enjoy them really. It's a totally different experience. And so the only way I would play a video game is if I could talk to the chat while I was playing it and we could share it, but it just doesn't, there's something about having the physical stuff to work with that is what makes the board gamers are different, have different needs and desires, and one of them is having stuff physically that you can manipulate. And so for me, the computer games don't really scratch that itch. But I'd be open to it. There are some interesting adventure games. There are a couple of new Sherlock Holmes games that you can play, and the Cthulhu ones are intriguing. I wouldn't be against the idea of experimenting with one of those, but it's not quite. It doesn't quite capture my heart the way playing these old classic games here on the table with you guys does. Rob says, Get Lamp is a great documentary about the history of interactive fiction. I haven't seen that. I should check it out. Amazon Prime's Tokyo Vice reminds me of a Tokyo version of High and Well. Oh, I don't know that either. I should check that out. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective PC full motion video might be good for a laugh. There's a whole series of, they actually took Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective and made PC games long time ago, decades ago, that had full motion video. Is Twisty Little Passages good? It's more academically slanted, so it's a little dry, but it has a good section on the history of Zork and Infocom that goes into quite a bit of detail. The stuff before the mainframe adventure is sort of throwaway, and then the stuff after Infocom, it feels a little bit of throwaway. But maybe not. At least from an American standpoint, the games that came after Infocom are of less interest to me. So if you can get it cheap used with Amazon Books, the way I do it is I use a plugin called Camel, something like that. So if I see a book I like, I just put a used price watch on it for like $3, and I wait a year until the book is available for $5 used, and pick it up then. So it's 2:26 p.m. now. We're going to wrap this up soon, and then I'll sign off here. And then at 3 p.m. in a half hour or so, we'll come back and we'll open our last Dear Holmes letter of the found key case. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, don't tune in to the last one, but you can go back and catch up. We'll probably take a break from Dear Holmes for a week to catch up or two, and then we'll start a new case every Sunday at 3 p.m. I think that's it then. I can't say enough how enjoyable it is to connect with the small group here. This is a small channel with a small group of people, and that's great. I love it like that. No need to do anything different. But you guys let me know if you have some ideas for something you'd like to try and play. I'm happy to accommodate. You saw my list of what we're going to try to do in the weeks to follow. But I have no complaints, nowhere I'd rather be than sharing this time with you guys. And I'll see you on the next update, but I'll see some of you in a half hour. And I hope if you like this content, you'll subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, consider donating to the Patreon. And yeah, we'll just go forward for the next 3 years. See ya.